Well, hey guys, welcome back. And something to remember, anytime you think you're having a bad day, having a bad week, at least you're not getting gunned down by some deranged lunatic screeching "Free Palestine" in the streets. So, of course, what I'm talking about is this story that's developing. You can see from the Associated Press what we know about the DC shooting where 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy lost their lives. Now, again, I've said before and I'll say it again. I am sick and tired of U.S. intervention all over the world, and I don't want our money going to Israel, to Ukraine, to any other foreign entity, especially given the amount of, I would say, interference with our own democracy or republic, however you want to look at it, that we've had from foreign nations that are supposed to be allied with us. Of course, assets of like Epstein, possibly Diddy, things that I am just not okay with. So that being said, I also don't want to be sending a whole bunch of money to Gaza. I'd rather Israel and Palestine can sort their own mess out, stop bombing the crap out of each other, stop blowing each other up. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it seems like that's never going to happen. So I think, of course, the U.S., like pulling back our involvement would be the best strategy at this point. However, we're having a lot of people, these radical, lunatic activists, of course, mostly the Free Palestine, pro-Palestine people, out here in the streets, rioting and protesting and doing crazy crap like this. So this article says 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy in Washington, a young couple on the verge of becoming engaged, lost their lives Wednesday evening while leaving an event at a Jewish museum, and the suspect yelled "Free, free Palestine" after he was arrested. The attack was seen by officials in Israel and the U.S. as the latest in a growing wave of anti-Semitism as Israel ramps up its offensive in the Gaza Strip, and as food security experts have warned that Gaza risks falling into famine unless Israel's blockade ends. Again, I can have sympathy for the people of Palestine, who I do believe are being wrongfully caught up in this, while also acknowledging that Hamas should be, standing down, while also acknowledging that Israel shouldn't just be indiscriminately bombing targets left and right, killing, tens of thousands of people. So it's a very, very messy situation. That's why I say I would rather just the U.S. get the hell out of it. But unfortunately, situations like this, which almost feel like false flags, if you know what I'm talking about, are going to probably draw the U.S. back in, which sucks. What's crazier about this is that one of these 2 people, I believe the woman that was unfortunately gunned down by this lunatic, was actually working on peace building between Palestinians and Israelis. So I don't know if this was sent as a message by this person, if they were specifically targeted. Again, the investigation is still ongoing as to why these 2 specifically were targeted. Like I said, I'm sure a lot of people, especially in the comments, are going to say, false flag. Maybe it is. Maybe this was an inside job, if you know what I'm saying. But who knows? At the end of the day, this is just unfortunate that so much violence and upheaval around the world is centered around this tiny little piece of land in the middle of godforsaken nowhere, where at the end of the day, we should just have zero U.S. involvement. So this ties into what we have going on currently with, of course, Hasan Piker, Hassan Abi, who you can see the quartering actually shared this wee hours of this morning, I believe just after midnight, when Nick Sorter shared a video from outside the embassy. The quartering says Hasan Piker reviewers, I bet. Now, the reason he says that is because Hasan Piker, one of the larger Twitch streamers out there, again, a guy that, a lot like other streamers, LARPs as a video game streamer, content creator, and then kind of delved more heavily into politics due to his involvement with his family, Cenk Uygur being his uncle over there at the Young Turks, and of course the deep pockets that support him, kind of promoted him to the forefront of, left-wing political speakers on the platform. So Hasan Piker, over the years, has had a lot of really terrible takes, as these champagne socialists tend to. Very much justifies any sort of violence against people he doesn't like, while, of course, speaking out against violence against people who are on his side. Very much the typical grift as you would have it. And it's gotten to where he has actually advocated for some really awful things. You can see he's even gotten to the levels of meeting with people like Bernie Sanders and AOC, although I think they're trying to distance themselves from him because he is too radical at this point. But yeah, Hasan has become kind of a darling over on Twitch for these left-wing progressive activists, these people who are just completely fomenting violence against anybody that they don't care for. And it's starting to catch up to him. Now today we see that apparently he is being blamed, if you will, by the ADL due to some of his rhetoric over the years. Drew Pavlo says 2 random Israeli embassy staff were executed in DC today. 2 days ago, the second biggest Twitch streamer, Hasan Piker, held a 20,000 person live stream with George Ganitis, I don't know, an Australian guy who has constantly urged Americans to randomly target Israelis. They incited this. Interesting. This Bad Empanada guy says it's very awesome the USA allows you to buy weapons like these easily. They can be utilized very effectively from a grassy knoll or a book depository. I mean, yeah, kind of coded language there, definitely. But it's getting even better now, because the ADL, an organization who I have no use for, absolute disdain for, again, they only exist for one reason, and I am not a fan of them. They are now going after Hasan Piker. Yes, we have 2 retards fighting, essentially, is what we have going on here. And you can see Nux says Hasan's getting really close to being 1,000% effed. From the Charlie Sheen Go on Twitter, it says the head of the ADL directly blames Hasan Piker, for the DC shooting. The full force of the U.S. government's about to come down on him. When these things happen, politicians look for a scapegoat to show that they're doing something about it. Hasan will be the guy. And this is, of course, Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL speaking.
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hasan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state. Like, extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly.
So again, while I do agree that Hasan Piker probably shouldn't have a platform, I'm also very much against deplatforming people whose opinions we do not agree with. Now, if you're calling for violence, obviously that's something that violates pretty much every platform's terms of service, and in some situations could possibly get, the FBI investigating you. Tectone says gamer is not something to call Hasan Piker. Hasan's about to be 510% effed. Chibi Reviews, somebody who's also been targeted online lately who's had to call the FBI on people, says the fact Hasan got mentioned like this is on live TV by the head of the ADL means Twitch is about to be forced to do something. Reminder, you're a horrible person if you are a Terry supporter. And of course, Yeet points out that lately Hasan has been getting a little bit edgier due to the fact that he's losing his relevancy on Twitch to people like Asmongold, due to the fact that Asmongold apparently is like one of the top searched people on the internet, whereas Hasan is dwindling in popularity compared to him on Twitch. Now, again, Hasan wants to claim that this is because, Asmongold and people like him basically relate to the lowest common denominator of people. Basically like, oh, it's easy to do the right-wing grift. But the reality is, it's not a matter of the right-wing grift. It's that the majority of people don't agree with Hasan. They don't agree with these, these Free Palestine supporters, and in general just want all these losers to go fight it out in the desert and leave the rest of us alone. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Let me know what you think about all this down in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.